Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Remote No Pressure Podcast. We're so happy that you joined us for another episode, another week, and we're very excited this week. We have an unbelievable guest, and we're going to break a rule. If you read much about podcasting and what you're supposed to do or how to do it, one of the things they say is, don't talk about the seasons. Don't talk about the time of year that you're in, because if someone stumbles across your podcast, say mid-July, and they would decide, hey, I want to binge listen to this. Well, you're talking about Christmas and it's July. So that doesn't make a lot of sense. So technically, you're not supposed to talk about seasons. But today, we have a very special guest. No, it's not Santa Claus because it is December. No, it's not Santa Claus. Someone way cooler, way more important than Santa Claus. It's Adam Beam from Project Healing Waters in Battle Creek. The reason why I'm talking about Christmas is if you've been through heartache, and I'm not talking about bouncing a check kind of heartache, okay? I'm talking about losing a loved one. I'm talking about things happening to you that you just don't understand. You just can't comprehend why. Or the holidays can be such a painful time of year. And right now, we are in the holiday season. It's December, and let's see here. It's the 9th or the 10th. It's December 10th, 2017. And some of you may be going through something, maybe just a really hard season for you right now. I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what happened to you. Maybe nothing happened to you. But by listening to Adam's story, you're going to be able to relate to people who've been through some really hard times. Adam Beam works with Project Healing Waters here in Battle Creek, Michigan. And he talks to us about how he was in a bad spot, but how he changed the narrative. No matter where you are out there right now, whether you are down in the dumps and you cannot pull yourself off the couch, or wherever you are, we are here for you. Listen to the podcast, forward it to someone you know who may be struggling, and know that things will get better. And that if you need help, reach out and get help. And I'm trying not to get too serious. I'm trying not to bring the heavy, but you know what? It's the reality of things. And Adam Beam, he says fly fishing saved his life. On top of that, you're also going to learn a little bit about Michigan history and some great fly fishing stories. Welcome to the podcast. Let's light the fire. Well, today on the Remote No Pressure Podcast, we have Adam Beam joining us. Thanks a lot for joining us, Adam.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Now, you're down in Cereal City, am I correct?
You are correct. Grand Old Battle Creek.
Now, did you grow up in Battle Creek, or did you move there?
Yes and yes. I grew up here in Battle Creek, and my parents worked for the U.S. government. And when I was like 12, we moved down to Memphis, Tennessee, in a little suburb outside of there called Germantown. And I spent my teenage years there in Germantown, Tennessee. So after I graduated from high school, I said, why not move back to Michigan and see where life takes me? And I came back to Battle Creek, and that's where I'm at now. I was in the Marine Corps, so I spent some time out in San Diego and North Carolina. And after spending some time out there, and being really expensive in San Diego, and North Carolina seemed to have a lot of bugs where I was at, so I came back to Battle Creek and settled here. I have a wife and young son, so we're making it do.
Yeah, that's great. Now, For the people who aren't from Michigan, Cereal City is home. The reason Battle Creek is called Cereal City is because it is the home of Post and Kellogg's, or was at one time,
Yes,
correct?
correct. So I actually work right now in Kellogg's, WK Kellogg's Sanitarium. And it's a really cool building to be in, lots and lots of history. And they used to have um, really famous people, princes from and princesses from India used to come, and back then that was like cereal was the big thing. So when you came to Battle Creek, you were getting to the sanitarium, you were getting basically the best health care without getting modern medicine. So they have a track, a walking track. They had all sorts of stuff. People could go and do calisthenics and get go outside to the portico and get their vitamin D via sunlight, and it was just really advanced for early 19th, or I'm sorry, early 20th century. So
Yeah, that's great. I saw they used to have a museum there that I went to, and the founders were Seventh Day Adventists, and they
correct,
didn't believe like caffeine or junk food, things like that. They were pretty healthy the natural way. Am I correct?
that's right. You're very correct. So the Seventh Day Adventist also, this is I hate to, or maybe this is kind of a good thing to say, but it's kind of like their mecca. This is Battle Creek was the or is the home of the Seventh Day Adventist. So every summer we have a big tour group that comes through. Actually, it's multiple times throughout the summer. Big tour groups that come through and they tour the building and take pictures and all that good stuff. So
Oh wow. Well, that's a brief history on,
yeah,
on Battle Creek.
yeah,
Now my question is, you served in the military, and
hmm
you were also an Eagle Scout. So kudos to
yeah.
you, which that's not
Thank
an
you.
easy thing. So I'm very happy that we have a former Marine and an Eagle Scout on the podcast. Now, now you're a disabled veteran, is that correct?
That's correct.
And one of the reasons we wanted to reach out to you is because of what you're doing with Project Healing Waters. Can you tell us a little bit about your chapter and how, let me ask you this question. And how did you end up going to Project Healing Waters?
Um, I ended up in Project Healing Waters program was actually a couple different avenues. I'm involved in community task force, and in that task force there's a gentleman by the name of Paul Jakubiak. Here in Michigan we know him as Uncle Jake. And he was talking about, after the meeting was over, he was talking about, yeah, I've got another fly tying class going on. I said, are you serious? He goes, yeah, but we do the rod building and all this other crazy stuff. And I said, I'd really be interested. Well, I started tying flies with Paul, and I ended up getting in trouble, uh, drinking and driving. And I wound up through Project Healing Waters to basically the court system. I had to go and get my um, PTSD evaluation done and through the VA. And at the VA, the lady that was doing my physical said, "Well, like what things do you like to do?" And I said, "Well, basically anything outdoors, I'm in." She said, "Well, my friend Tim May runs a program called Project Healing Water, so you should go check it out." I said, "What's it all about?" And he said, "Here's a pamphlet. I know they go on fishing trips and stuff like that." And I started going through the pamphlet, and I was like, "This is fly fishing. This is sweet. Like, I'm totally there." So my dad's a disabled vet as well. He's a Vietnam vet, and so my dad and I went to the meeting, and I haven't looked back. It really did pull me out of a really dark spot that I was in. I wasn't in the best place in my life, but it's just one of those things that has saved so many different people and veterans, more specifically. Our program, let's see, last year alone, we had locally 1,100 hours in volunteer hours. We had 202 volunteers, something like $11,000 in um, guides that donated their time to us. We had something around a little shy of $2,000 in grants. So I mean, overall, we have a very stable program. We're the only one in Michigan right now, and they, I get a lot of emails from a lot of different folks throughout the state, whether it's you know Joe Blow off the street, hey, how can I help? To, hey, I got a guide boat, or I've got a guide shop. We've got boats. Let us know when you get to the east side of the state. We'd be happy to help you out. Or Kevin Finster's guys, they donate their entire day twice a year, and we do a fall fishing trip and a spring fishing trip on the Muskegon River. We have something close to Kevin, Drew, and Matt, and another guy from Kevin's shop. That's four. And then we have another 10 boats that are basically TU volunteers or guys that are just like, hey, man, let's go fishing. Sounds like fun. And boom, we make it happen. It's totally free, 100% for the vets. It's, it's legit. It's really cool. We had this year, we've got another 1,000 hours for volunteer hours. We've had a major inaugural year for our Holy Waters fishing tournament for the disabled veterans. We raised close to $16,000 there. And that was hosted by Gates Lodge. And Josh was more than willing to help us out, and he accommodated all of our needs. So it was awesome. And we'll be doing that again this year in early August rather than late August.
Well, that's phenomenal. Can you tell us a little bit? Maybe you know a story or two of someone whose life was changed dramatically through fly fishing or through Project Healing Waters.
Well, besides my own, we have one veteran I know of off the top of my head that's still participating in Project Healing Waters. And he was basically at his wit's end. Just, what I do, where do I go? He felt very isolated. He really didn't get out of his house. Couldn't, I wouldn't say not function, but I mean, he was in a rough spot. That's just the easiest way to put it. He was in a really rough spot. Didn't have any wheels. Couldn't work because of his disability rating, and he came to us via another Project Healing Waters program in a different state, and we said, "Hey, listen, why don't you come on out? We're same group of guys, friends you haven't met yet. Just get on out here." And he came, and as soon as he walked through the door and sat down and started tying a fly, and realized that, hey, this is all about camaraderie. This has nothing to do about my therapy. This is just veterans being veterans in a veteran setting. Lights turned back on, different dude. Now he's one of our volunteers. So it's a pretty dramatic change when you see someone come in in a rough spot, and then 2 years later, here they are, like, hey, I want to volunteer. Let's do this. Let's do that. I got a really good idea about this. Why don't we do that? And
Now with you, I know you said that you were drinking. Was that a result of the PTSD, you think, from being in the military, or?
yeah, so I lost a couple of really good friends. Not during my deployment. When I came back, they call it survivor's guilt, quote unquote. And it was almost as if, no, it's not as if. It's basically, I felt like if I could have been there, I could have changed the outcome. You know what I mean? And then it went because one of the guys was in my team, and he was actually he took a direct hit by an RPG, and I talking to my other friends that actually came home, and we kind of hashed everything out. It was like a year and a half after they came home. They're like, dude, there's nothing you could have done to change that outcome. I mean, you could have been on a different detail. We were just doing EPW, enemy prisoner of war um, collections, and just kind of doing house to house off of intelligence stuff. So, um, that one really hurt. I took that personally because I just felt that I didn't spend enough time with him. It's different, and trying to come out of the that culture and integrating myself back into what we call a civilian world. It's different. It's really different. I mean, there's the structure is gone. There's no, hey, listen, we're going to get up, we're going to do this. Here's the plan of the day. You're going to wear this. It's just all of that stuff was gone. And so, really, the only coping mechanism I knew was to turn to alcohol. And I did the same thing as the gentleman I was just talking to you about. I really pulled myself up, wouldn't leave the house. I was there's God 6 or 7 years that I really didn't buy, like this Christmas time. I didn't go out and buy Christmas presents for my family. It was the social anxiety was just too much for me to be out in the holiday shopping world. It was just too much. So I just, hey, let's get to drinking. So and to really to acknowledge that, and to you know I won't say recover because you're not totally recovered at all, but to acknowledge that and to actually seek the help and get the help and stick with it. And you know I think Kaz was saying it a couple weeks ago. Hey, there's some guys that find the finer things of fly fishing on the rivers. Dipping back a thing of scotch or whatever it is. I just find fly fishing just more therapeutic, being out there. You know, listening to the water, casting, and tying flies. Sitting here at the bench, tying flies takes my mind off of whatever's going on. So yeah,
Well,
good stuff.
good for you, Adam. I mean, you changed the narrative, you changed your story, and all of us here
For
as a
sure.
podcast, we're just like so proud of what you've done. We're so proud of everyone, and I wish I could say, I know where I don't know where you're coming from. I've never served in the military. I've never dealt with the things that you've dealt with, but kudos to you for turning the ship around. And like,
Thank you.
yeah, and like, when Kaz was here, a couple episodes ago, he changed his story. We all
Right.
we all go through rough patches. We all go through these times of heartache, and some people's heartache and some trials that people go through are greater than what we'll ever experience. But either way,
That's
it's changing that narrative.
so true. So true. I 100% agreed.
And I'd like to say, it's like fly fishing is almost a spiritual thing. I mean,
Totally is. You know, it for me. I'm just going to give you my perspective of it, but for me, the getting out there, and I kind of hate to say it, but just being out there and you know to me, it's like the bubbling of the riffles or the gurgling of the stream. It's kind of like the chorus to the church, and it could be the geese that are singing. Uh, it just I love seeing the sunrise. I was out with my brother and I went out with Drew Rosemo from Teen Church Guides Service a couple weeks ago. Actually, it was last Tuesday, and we had a couple moments that really gave me chills. The sun was coming up. We just landed our first steelhead, and we had a flock of geese fly over, and I was like, dude, that is just it right there. There's nothing that beats a fall day. You know, swinging some streamers for steelhead and having geese and all that good stuff. And then seeing the bald eagle is just kind of, I don't know, super symbolic for me. It's Christmas for me, so it's kind of it's just they call it a trigger. So um, I have to identify, hey, it's Christmas. It's going to be rough. That's kind of the whole name of the game. But being out there and fishing and having the one solo bald eagle over us for half an hour was that's just cool. It's just super sweet.
yeah, that's really awesome. Now, as far as fly fishing, now, I mean, obviously you're really involved. Can you tell us a little bit about the holy water? Well, speaking of spiritual things, can
Yeah.
you? Well, what a great
Yeah.
segue. I'm not that good of a host to think about that in advance.
No, you're good. You're
So,
good. That's awesome.
so yeah, tell us a little bit about the Holy Waters tournament.
So the Holy Waters tournament is when I first came into the whole Project Healing Waters leadership role. I found out that hey, there's actually national destination trips, is what to call them. National destination trips for these disabled vets to go on. They're 100, like I've said, they're 100% free. All the disabled vet has to do is be a participant of Project Healing Waters in a identified program, and they get to go. I went out. In fact, it's kind of funny. In the newest issue of Trout, if you look on it, I'm going to flip to it real quick. If you look within the magazine itself, there is the Healing Waters Lodge. No connection to Project Healing Waters, but it's run by um, Mike Geary out of Twin Bridges, Montana, and that was the place I got to go. And they are now a gold level partner with TU. So there's these national destination trips they get to go on, and I said, hey, well, we got one in Baldwin. How come that's never been really put out to the us guys in Michigan? And sadly enough, that was Steve Ladd's baby, the Flint River Rainbow Club, something like that. Um, that was Steve Ladd's baby, and he basically told Project Healing Waters that, hey, two guys from Battle Creek are definitely going to be slotted to go on this. Well, I had it in my bright idea that we've got the home of Trouts Unlimited, not 4 hours away from us. Why
Right,
is there not something there?
right.
Why? I mean, that Trouts Unlimited is one of Project Healing Water's biggest proponents. So it's one of those things. I pitched it to our regional coordinator, Rich Bianco, and I said, I really think that if this were to, give it a couple years, but I'm sure it'll take off. I mean, there's some big fundraisers out for Project Clean Waters. One's the Rose River Farm, another one's Battle of Boxwood. That if we could market this correctly, this could be another big fundraiser for Project Clean Waters,
Right.
and it'd be a really big bonus for us. So he said, that's great. You need to come up with title for it. We need to have a logo. We need to do all this stuff. Thankfully, my brother's an artist, a really good artist. And I said, "Hey, Brian, do you think you could draw us up a logo?" And he was like, "For what?" So I told him about it. So the Holy Waters National Destination Trip is for Project Healing Water participants that are what we call ambassadors. And ambassadors are folks that have experience fly fishing, experience on the river, whether if it's wading or in the boat. They really don't need any instruction. They just are told, hey, we need to fish this run, or hey, this is a really good fishing spot, and they can fish it. They might need a little bit of help from the guide, or they might need a little bit of coaching. Hey, you need to get it in there. Or, hey, we're going to nymph this hole. We're going to switch up rigs. They need to know how to nymph. So what we do is we go up to Gates, and we spend, it's a 1-day fishing trip. I believe that this year it's going to change into like a day and a half. The winner this year ended up was a retired Navy corpsman from Indianapolis. His name is Patrick Cannon, and if he's listening, Patrick, I'm sorry I threw your name out there, but Patrick ended up catching the most fish, which was one area you could win. The most fish got a new rod and reel. I can't remember the name of that company, but a new rod and reel. And then the ultimate grand prize finale winner was the fisherman with the greatest total length. Okay, and there was a trifecta in there too. So if you caught a brook, brown, and rainbow, you got your fly rod. If you got a total of, I think Patrick's total was something in the like 22 or 29 inches total. That grand prize was a all expenses paid trip to Patagonia, Chile, with Wildcat Creek Outfitters down in Zion, Indiana. And Patrick ended up winning both. He was like, "I got this new fly rod and reel. I'm going to go down to Patagonia and fish." I'm like, "I think you might need a bigger rod."
Well, that's great. Now, one of the things you wanted to talk about on the podcast today was Project Healing Waters. Obviously, they're in Battle Creek and the Holy Waters Fishing Tournament. Now, you had mentioned, I mean, you're doing some great things, and I'm partial to that partly because I live in Michigan, and I'm just so proud of what you guys are doing. If someone wanted to sponsor that, I know you're always looking for sponsors or donations. How would they go
Right.
about doing that, Adam?
They can get a hold of myself. My email address is adam.beam@projecthealingwaters.org. I'm the program lead for Battle Creek, Michigan. They can get in touch with our regional coordinator. His name is Rich Lobianco, and his email, I believe, is richard.lobianco@projecthealingwaters.org. He's got another with like loborichie@gmail.com. And basically, we look for 3 different types of sponsorships. There's a $10,000, a $5,000, and a $2,000 gold, silver, and bronze level. Within there, the packages, the $10,000 sponsorship package is a lot of, you get your name plastered on everything that we post: posters, shirts, t-shirts, banners, the whole 9 yards. It gets put out there. I believe with that sponsorship, you also get to fish with the veteran. You get to sit with the veteran during the dinner after the fishing tournament. So contact myself or Rich for more information, and we can get you set up. We're always looking for donations. the big question about donations, I always get it, and I'm sure it goes with any other organization. Does it stay local? The real answer is yes, it does. It's a different way of going about. We don't have our own bank account. We're going to have our own bank account within the policies and regulations. We'd have to set up our own 501c3 program, and I would rather not do that. So what you would have to do is say, I'm donating this, X amount of dollars to the Battle Creek, Michigan Project Healing Waters program. That gets sent off to La Plata, Maryland, and it gets earmarked for Battle Creek. And it gets put into our budget, and it just constantly revolves in there until we spend it, and then we get to move on.
Well, what I will do is I'll make sure to include those email addresses, your contact information, and all the links that you provided. I'll put that up on our blog. So anyone who's listening, just go to remotenопроessure.com/blog and check it out. And also, as we close down here, Adam, everyone here, most people who are listening have either been affected personally by PTSD or have been are veterans, or they know someone who is a veteran that may suffer, from PTSD or all the complications from war.
Right.
What would you tell them if maybe they're at that point right now where, we really talk about dreams a lot on Remote No Pressure, dreaming big and accomplishing these goals. Well, maybe their dream is just to go Christmas shopping, like you had mentioned, like, man,
Right.
what do you,
Right.
what do you tell that veteran? I mean, maybe he's not a fly fisherman, maybe he's not a fly angler, or she's not a fly angler. What would you tell them right now if
You
they
are
were in that spot?
you are not alone. There are plenty of us out there in that same boat, have been not in your exact shoes, but we can relate. But we've all been there. Us, the veterans there at Project Healing Waters, whether you're not a fly fisherman, you have no interest in fishing at all, I would say contact me. Let's talk. If you need somebody just to talk to, hit me up. I'm on Facebook. I'm Batcaster on Facebook, as well as Adam Beam. Batcaster's tied to my Project Healing Waters page, and then I have my own personal Facebook page. But seriously, if you're in a bad spot, if whatever's happening in your life, hit me up. I'm more than willing to help you, because I get my part of my healing process is helping veterans. That's why I'm the program lead for Project Healing Waters, Battle Creek. So if you're in a bad spot, hit me up. If you're within Battle Creek and you're in a bad spot or the surrounding area, hit me up.
Well, Adam, thank you very much for spending some time with us. I really appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Jeff. I appreciate it. No, I really do appreciate your time. It's been awesome.
Well, thank you, Adam, and thank you for joining us this week on the Remote No Pressure podcast. Like Adam said, no matter where you are, if you need help, reach out. Find Project Healing Waters, reach out to Adam, do whatever you need to do to get help. But no matter what, just know that things will change. It's okay. We're all here for you. Reach out to me, and we're all here for you. I can refer you to someone we know or whatever. I just want you guys to know that it's the holidays and it was a hard time for you, that there's people out there that really care about you, that really love you. And we want to make sure that you get connected to who you need to get connected to. If you haven't already, go to the Remote No Pressure website, remotenopressure.com, and sign up for our mailing list. I know I'm supposed to say this at the beginning of the podcast, in the middle, and at the end. I'm only going to tell you at the end. Go to the Remote No Pressure podcast, sign up for our mailing list. We've got some really cool things happening in 2018 that I want you to be a part of, and I'm only going to open it up to my mailing list. So go, sign up, be a part of what we're doing. And until next time, go fishing.